Now, Biden discussed a 1.75 to 1.9 trillion price tag for the sweeping spending package. Remember, the initial price tag was 6 trillion, then it was lowered to 3.5 trillion, and now we're talking about maybe if we're lucky, 1.9 trillion. While the number is not finalized, it is far closer to West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin's 1.5 trillion top line than Progressive's number, which was 3.5 trillion. Oh, thank God. I mean, thank God we're appeasing Senator Joe Manchin. Thank God. I mean, that's the most important thing here. Now, has he agreed to vote in favor of the reconciliation bill? No. But this story gets far worse. First off, corporate tax hikes? Gone. There will be no corporate tax hikes. Biden is willing to avoid increasing taxes on corporations. When Donald Trump came into office, the corporate tax rate was 35%. Because of his tax cuts for the rich, they were lowered to 21%.
We're going to take a dive into Biden's approval rating and how it's suffering most right now with independents and Hispanic voters. Now, it's true that any president within the first 9 months of their administration, their approval rating is going to go down for pretty much the same reasons through and through. However, what's important to remember about independent voters is that they're the most malleable, meaning that they're the most likely to vote along policy issues that matter most to them rather than strictly along party lines. So in every single election, both parties are really going after the independent voters. So first we're going to look at the numbers, and then we're going to talk a little bit about why his approval is slipping with independents, Hispanics, and with progressives, which is of course a part of the core base that he needs and that the Democrats need to win. So over the summer, the first numbers we're going to look at for June and then now. So over the summer, Biden's approval rating was roughly 50% with independents. Now it's at 35%. Biden's response on COVID was at 60% in June. Now it's at 42%. And on the economy, it was in the low 40s in June, but now it's hovering around 30%. With Hispanics, his response to the pandemic is at 45% now. It was at 65% in June, 42% now, 60% in June. And on immigration is obviously where Biden suffers the worst with Hispanic voters, 23% now versus 49% in May. Now, another big problem that Biden faces is that he and the Democrats haven't really delivered on their supermajority and just the most fruitful time during any president's administration, which is typical of the Democrats, but that's a conversation for another day. So Biden could eliminate student debt. He isn't doing it. The Democratic supermajority could raise the minimum wage. Of course, that's not something that they're truly interested in doing. Right now, the $3.5 trillion infrastructure Build Back Better plan has been negotiated down to $1.9 trillion, really just because of Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, who recently, a billionaire named Nelson Peltz, who's also a Donald Trump supporter, said that he calls Joe Manchin every week and he's just doing a phenomenal job. So again, it shows you what they're really in it for. The corporate tax rate, which Biden originally wanted to raise up to 28% from 21%, that's been negotiated down to 25% because of Senate Democrats. And again, it's this lack of fervor that really is going to prevent Joe Biden from capturing that progressive base, which really is where the party is going, which is obviously is a big issue for the midterms, especially because less people vote in midterms, and a huge issue for 2024. We've already talked about Kamala Harris not really stepping up to the plate enough. She's been too quiet. Where is she? She's really blowing her opportunities to seize the Democratic Party and to really just motivate people to get to the polls. So these are some of the reasons why Joe Biden's approval is really suffering with the base and also with independents and Hispanics. And again, the independent voting base is really what both the Democratic and Republican parties go after to solidify their wins in elections. So we're going to keep our eyes on Biden's approval ratings and his polling numbers. Tune in to TYT and we'll keep you up to date.